Hi, I'm Mark Dill, the author of The Legend of the First Super Speedway, and I'm honored to be here with Matty Bennent. Matty's one of the leading experts in Indianapolis about automotive history, which was so rich back at the beginning of the 20th century. He's on boards of organization nonprofits for preserving automotive history, and he's also director at Kids Building Bikes, a terrific nonprofit, and you should look it up and learn more about it. So Matty, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So we're standing in front of the National Motor Vehicle Company factory, and it's just so cool to be here. It's great that it still stands. It's a bit of an abandoned property, but people are preserving it, so that's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about just what was going on in here?
Yeah. So we're located on Yandes and 22nd Street, right adjacent to the Monon, and then the Lake Erie belt that wraps around the building. So this building, we can't see the original building, but I'm sure Mark will have some great detailed photos of the original brick construction that happened about 1900. National was originally called National Electric and Vehicle Company, but after they went full combustion in 1904/5, they went to National Motor and Vehicle Company. So if we look at it, we go back in history a little bit. We have Charles Test and Mr. Arthur C. Newby, AC, that went on to be one of the iconic four founders of the Motor Speedway. So from that point, they met at Marmon and Nordyke, and then prior to that, my love of all two wheels and four wheels, but two wheels, Newby was building outing bicycles for a local company. So Newby was the numbers guy, Test was more of the CEO style. They decided that it was time to start an automobile company. But if we jump back to about 1890 with the bicycle craze, they, with other investors, they went in and started Indianapolis Chain and Stamping Company that is later renamed Diamond Chain, which is located at South Street and Kentucky Avenue. So after, towards the end of the bicycle craze, towards the beginning of the 20th century, we have to get better at saying that. They took their dividends from that sale and then started National. So in 1901, they had a cabriolet electromobile, and you talk about full circle with the so these were pretty much horseless carriages that were finished like Steinway pianos and little shade on top. They were called runabouts as well. So they had 32 Edison battery cells in them that were more of a ceramic based vertical battery. And then they went full combustion in 1904, 1905. Up to that point, they had been running the round radiator. Almost looked like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang vehicle.
And those were the cars, the Model Cs that set the 24-hour record.
So, this is kind of where we really get the term stock car becoming a race car. In 1905, as Mark just mentioned, at the State Fairgrounds. It was at the different fairgrounds when it was located at a different location than it is now in Indianapolis. They broke the 24-hour world record for mileage, and that was Charlie Murs and Crazy Jap Clements. And Jap, it was an overnight exhibition. It was Carl Fisher's one of his crazy marketing ideas to use his infamous Presto-Light system to light state fairgrounds. It was in November, just about the time that we're talking right now.
I think it was November 17th.
Yes, that's right. And it was freezing cold, and these guys could only do maybe 3 to 5 laps without being frozen like they're a little driver in a toy car. They had to take them off, thaw them around the campfire, and put them back on for a couple more laps. But Jap went into the rail, but Charlie continued on through the night, and he broke a record from a driver from Empire Speedway in
Yes.
New York.
Yeah. Very
Right?
good.
Okay.
And to be clear, Jap then started co-driving, so they would switch off because, as
Okay,
you said,
okay,
it was
well, yeah,
cold, and
yeah,
it's
that
like,
makes
yeah, man,
sense.
I'm ready to get out of here.
Yeah, but off to the side of the track were the future four founders of the Motor Speedway: Mr. Frank Wheeler, James Allison, Carl Fisher, and my favorite, Arthur C. Newby. So being national in those cars, I'm a little biased to the inception or the conception moment of national and the Motor Speedway and the records that they broke, because those four founders were warming themselves around a campfire, discussing proving ground, a super speedway.
Yeah. And you know, that whole setting that you've just described so well is a scene in my book.
It is. Yeah.
So yeah.
And he's wrote a wonderful article prior to that called "The 24 Hours of
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis." Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're welcome. So going from into full combustion, Charles Test again was the president. He started to have some health issues. I think he stepped away anywhere.
And he was older than maybe.
He
right?
was, yeah. He lived in Woodruff Place. Now Newby comes from Monrovia. He never married, never had any children, and he's considered the quiet philanthropist, and that's a whole nother episode that we can get into. So when they're going full combustion, people had the options. If they still had the round radiators from the record breaker style, they would retrofit the front shield of their National if they had bought prior, because shields and grills, that was their coat of arms. And so it's very important that they were carrying on that tradition on into the early 1900s.
Absolutely.
So then we get to about 1909. Most manufacturers weren't ready to go racing at that point, because it's such the automobile was in its infancy.
Right.
So the first two cars that National built as race cars started some of the precursor races of 1909 that I know Mark gets into in pretty extensive detail in his book. So in 1911 they started the second Indianapolis, 1912. They did start in 1911, the first running, and Brian Blaine, out of Visalia, California.
Yes.
He has an incredible group called Ragtime Racers, and they are running those exact cars. He has a number 20 that started the Indianapolis 500. This is a restoration heaven. I've ridden in the number 20.
Me too.
So you're pumped. We're little. So we're about the size of the ride-along mechanics probably really were.
Yeah, probably.
And we're pumping the oil, and 75 to 95 mile an hour feels like Mach 2.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're sitting on that.
And Brian is more than happy to do that.
He is, yeah. He's all in. So let's go back to Charles Test. So I think he stepped aside. Newby became president. But the great-grandson of Charles Test is also named Charles Test, different middle name. Obviously takes a lot of honor in his heritage and his lineage, and had really dug in, embraced what his great-grandfather had done.
And he's got a national that he campaigns in ragtime.
He does, yeah. And I think that is a 1912 Roadster.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it was a strictly stock.
Yeah, and they made it into a race car.
Yeah.
So when people, and just like Marmon, when they won in 1911, they stopped racing altogether because they were inundated with sales, and so that whole moniker of winning on Sunday, selling on Monday, there's something to be said that it started here.
And the Indy 500 was right off the blocks. A really big deal.
It was.
That people were paying attention worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. And so, it's pretty incredible. After National, they entered in 1912 with the National SX1, and that's a little brass plate on the back of the rear axle. I think they averaged a speed of 72 or 78 miles an hour. That SX1 will also, I think, be featured by Mark in a video. It still holds a record at 498 cubic inches for the largest motor ever to be driven at the Motor Speedway. It was probably also one of the most inefficient motors.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They're called T-heads. So, you know, and Brian's car also has T-heads in it and everything. So it was really interesting. Some of those cars would have their fuel lines wrapping around the exhaust to go ahead and bring up the temperature of the fuel. So as it entered carburation, it was already hot and exploded
would do
quicker. So national, the United States Army hired them to provide all of the U.S. Army cars for World War I for officers. So a lot of nationals were shipped overseas and never made it back. I've seen a couple, one in Sweden,
Oh, really?
Netherlands, but they sell pretty quick. Very limited ones that exist on a couple hands. So let's go back to the Model C 1905. So there was a fella from Indiana, and he found a Model C 1905 in Louisville. He moved to California.
Yeah, I wrote as a sidebar in the article I wrote.
Yeah, that's right. So Charles has that now.
Does he?
He
I
does.
knew the guy sold it.
Yeah, he has that.
Sold it
So
to
that
Charles,
would be. I haven't seen that in person, but Jay Leno's been.
It's the only one in the world.
Only one in the world, and Charles and I have talked. It's within probably 10 to 15 serial numbers of the ones that Jap and Charlie drove.
Okay.
So pretty cool. Yeah. So let's go a little bit further. Their peak output was in 1914 with 1,953 units, which is significant.
For that age,
It was, but you know, at that point they had already added on to the factory from the original footprint in 1913 and 14, because after that win in 1912, they had 3 times the amount of orders than they could output.
Yeah.
And who wants to keep, you know, you want to keep your customers happy in your dealers.
Yeah.
So they built additional 3 buildings, so it came out to about 280 or 85,000 square feet of production facility, and that held a record for 3 months for the largest production facility for
America.
For 3 months. So,
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. They went into receivership in 23-24. There was some elements out of Detroit that procured some stock. Part of this went on to be Nash. So there's some interesting disbursement of the national seeds across the automobile industry.
Some DNA.
Some DNA. So we could go on forever. What else you got?
We could. Well, I mean, I think we need to wrap it up. But this is great, man. Thank you so much.
I always enjoy spending time.
We could go on forever.
We could, absolutely. So, but we really appreciate the opportunity to show this iconic building.
Okay. Thank you.